Donald Trump and his entire regime are panicking as the Midas Touch network keeps on dropping the receipts regarding Donald Trump's connections with Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump and his regime can't handle the fact that we've already gotten hundreds of millions of views on this YouTube channel. The Midas Touch network is now beating the Joe Rogan podcast on this YouTube channel based on the latest rankings with our coverage of Donald Trump's connections with Epstein. Now, folks, we're not just covering it over the past few weeks. We've been covering this for years and years and years, and we've been digging up all the archival footage. So what we're able to do when we read the files is we can then show corresponding videos, witness statements, and as a former litigator, I think, in my opinion, that is, I can build a very compelling racketeering case against Donald Trump for his dastardly and despicable behavior. So we dropped a video yesterday on some of these videos. It got over 2 million views. Let's do it again. And I want to show you first this BBC Panorama series from 2018. Notably, Donald Trump recently sued BBC regarding its Panorama series coverage regarding the January 6th insurrection. Remember, Trump sued the BBC? Well, if you go back to 2018, they did an incredible doc on Donald Trump called Sex Pest, and everybody should go and watch the full doc. But we've been talking about these videos for a very long time because in it, BBC identified numerous eyewitnesses back then. What I think is very helpful is finding the witnesses who talked about it in 2018, in 2016, in the early 2000s, in the 1990s. So you have that basis of comparison as well. So let's just pull out the receipts, shall we? And let's make the Trump regime panic even more. As Democratic Congress member Ted Lieu writes, the interview that the Midas Touch network just posted with someone by the name of Barbara Pilling sheds light on why Attorney General Pam Bondi paused for so long before responding to a question about whether Donald Trump attended parties with underage girls. He did, is the answer. Many times Donald Trump attended parties with underage girls. So just ask yourself this question. When Donald Trump was in his 40s and 50s and 60s, okay, why was he doing parties with underage girls? Why would he even do that to begin with? And then, of course, yesterday in the video that's gotten over 2 million views, I reported how a business person who ran a pageant said that Donald Trump and Epstein brought in lots of girls, and they said they were going to have a modeling competition at Mar-a-Lago, and there would be all these other guys from the fashion industry there. But it ended up just being Donald Trump and Epstein and these girls. Why would you do that? What do you think Donald Trump and Epstein were doing with the girls? So first, I want to share with you the cross-exam by Ted Lieu of Bondi, and then I'm going to show what Barbara Pilling said, and then I'm going to show you some of what the beauty pageant contestants in Trump's beauty pageant said about him walking in on them naked or walking in on them as they were changing. And then I'm going to show you what Donald Trump told a group of high school students, where he said it was a very courageous act when he talked about grabbing women without consent by their genitals. In other words, sexually assaulting women. Trump spoke with high school kids and college kids, and he told them that it was so courageous that military generals praised him. You remember when he said that? If not, I'm going to go and show you that. And maybe, you know what, I'll show you too. I'll show you when Donald Trump spoke at a high school and he was speaking to the high schoolers and people at the high school. I believe it was in Iowa, about golden showers, about getting peed on by hookers. And he said, I don't like that. I don't like he goes, Melania knows I don't like golden showers because I don't like germs. He said, I don't want to get peed on by hookers. I'm not into that. Why would you bring that up during a speech? You ready for the receipts, Midas Mighty? Make sure you hit subscribe, by the way, to our YouTube channel. You see how close we are to 6 million subscribers? Help us get to 6 million. We would be very, very grateful. All right. First, here's what went down. We've got, I played you the clip of Ted Lieu.
Were there any underage girls at that party? or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein.
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done.
Okay, now here is the host saying what's most shocking is the age of some of these models that would go to these Trump events. Here, play this clip.
We've spoken to a number of sources who saw Donald Trump at the parties. Most paint a similar picture.
Just describe to us the way Donald Trump behaved at these parties.
I mean, this guy it was like a predator in action.
I went to the washroom and I was going in and a girl was coming out and she kind of looked at me and I go, "Have you talked to that Trump guy?" And she goes, "Yeah." As I was walking by, he's like trying to grab my ass.
We do know that he was having sex with them.
How do you know that?
Because the next day or days after we would hear about it, he'd brag about it to his friends and it would get around that he scored, maybe one or two girls at a time, which is what he loved to do.
There's no evidence that Donald Trump slept with underage girls. But what's most shocking is the age of some of the models at the parties.
There was girls, I would say 14, 15 years old, from Europe, the European girls.
They were 14 or 15?
There were girls that were 14, 15 years old, for sure. I mean, I didn't run up and say, "How old are you?" But they looked younger than I was, and I was 17. You just knew because of what they were wearing and how they would hold themselves.
And these girls are all anywhere from 14, 15, 16 years old. There was very few girls above the age of 19 there.
And you saw Donald Trump with these girls who were that young, 15, 16?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they're standing around with them, ogling them.
It was just disgusting. I felt like I was in the presence of a shark we're getting ready to roll his eyes back in his head and bite me. That's how I felt. It was just like, get the hell out of here.
All right, now here's another clip from that documentary. Barbara Pilling, the narrator, talks about how Barbara Pilling was a young model from New York. Just watch for yourself.
Barbara Pilling was a young model in New York. She first saw Donald Trump at a party in the late 80s. She's never spoken publicly about it before.
He said, "How old are you?" And I said, 17. He goes, "Oh, great. So you're not too old, not too young. That's just great." I remember one of the waitresses offered him a drink. He didn't take the drink and he slapped her bottom. She was a blonde. He gave her about a slap and he was very loud. He was like, "Don't worry, that's not your tip."
Heather Braden also saw Donald Trump at model parties in the 90s. One was in Florida. At 23, she was one of the oldest women there.
I remember particularly seeing him at a party at a house in Miami. This particular party, there were 4 men and probably 50 models.
4 men and 50 models?
That's approximately what I would remember. And I was one of the models. I mean, I felt like I was in some, I could have been very well being auctioned off in some sort of a sex slave ring. That's how I felt. I felt like a piece of meat in a meat market. What else could I feel like?
Then they talk about what would go down in the beauty pageants. Here, play this clip.
I remember being in the back and hearing the chaperones say, "Ladies, listen up. We've got someone that's going to come in and see you. Make sure you're at least covered up." All of the girls were changing, getting their bras and underwear on and getting ready to put on their opening number outfits.
So when Donald Trump walked in, there were women in there who weren't fully clothed?
Correct. Women were not fully clothed when Donald Trump came in.
And some of those women were, what, as young as 15?
Yes, 15 years old.
Now, next, I want to share with you what Miss North Carolina from 2006 said about Donald Trump. This is when Don Lemon was on CNN. This was back during the first time Donald Trump ran. Here's what, again, Miss North Carolina 2006 had to say. Play this clip.
Is it normal to see men in dressing rooms at pageants and the owner of the pageant?
No.
No, the director of the North Carolina, South Carolina, Louisiana, and Alabama pageants, it's very much a family atmosphere. She doesn't even go backstage when the girls are getting ready. Only the female chaperones are allowed backstage in the dressing rooms with the girls. I've never had an experience where there were men or directors or anything like that walking back in the dressing rooms.
Yeah. As I understand, there you have an experience of something that happened the night before the pageant?
Well, not the night before the pageant, but when we were in New York City on the media tour, they were doing a book launch at Trump Towers for the Universal Beauty book, and they had a bunch of former Miss USAs and Miss Universes and all 51 of us, and we did the red carpet, and that was tons of fun. And then they lined us all up, and Trump went down the line, and he shook your hand and, looked you over, looked you up and down, head to toe, and was just checking everybody out.
And you thought you felt?
I felt very dirty. It was very creepy. It's kind of like when you're at a bar and a creepy guy is checking you out. That was the experience for me.
We're a year into the new administration, and it's getting harder to read the news and see the continued attacks on our First Amendment freedoms daily. Now is the time to look for helpers, those who are strategically fighting day in and day out to preserve our constitutional freedoms. One of the orgs fighting the good fight is Americans United for Separation of Church and State. Their mission is to protect everyone's right to live as they are and believe as they choose, so long as they don't harm others. AU is fighting back against the wave of Christian nationalist threats happening across the country. They filed 11 lawsuits last year alone, multiple against the Trump administration, to protect your individual freedom of and from religion. Whether you support public education, are passionate about LGBTQ+ and reproductive rights, or some combination of all, AU relies on the help of its supporters to do this important work. If you're looking for an organization to support and learn from, head to au.org/Meidas to see how you can get involved in their work and support the fight against Christian nationalism. That's au.org/Meidas.
Now here's what Tasha Dixon, Miss Arizona 2001, had to say. Play this clip.
He just came strolling right in. There was no second to put a robe on or any sort of clothing or anything. Some girls were topless, other girls were naked.
As Miss Arizona 2001, Tasha Dixon competed in the Miss USA pageant. Donald Trump owned the contest along with Miss Universe and Miss Teen USA for 19 years.
Our first introduction to him was when we were at the dress rehearsal and half naked changing into our bikinis. To have the owner come waltzing in when we're naked or half naked in a very physically vulnerable position, and then to have the pressure of the people that work for him telling us to go fawn all over him, go walk up to him, talk to him.
And Dixon has strong opinions about what she thinks were Trump's motivations.
I'm telling you, Donald Trump owned the pageant for the reason to utilize his power to get, around beautiful women.
Dixon, who lives in West Hollywood, was 18 at the time.
Who do you complain to? He owns the pageant. So there's no one to complain to. Everyone there works for him.
The year she competed, the theme was empowering women. And after hearing recent audio of Trump talking about women, she decided to speak out.
I'm Miss Arizona, so I veer more on the conservative side. But I just like to choose what's right.
Now, you know what Donald Trump said, though, right? I mean, he's on audio with Howard Stern saying that when you own beauty pageants the way he does, that he thinks that he's entitled to go in and inspect and look at the girls naked. He goes, that's what you do. And by the way, remember the people's ages at these beauty pageants: 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, maybe some in their 20s, but by and large, very young girls at Trump's pageants. And Trump says at the pageants, he looks at the girls naked. Remember what he said? Play this clip.
What you could also say is the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. Right, I want to make sure that
like
everything is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like.
All right, and remember how Donald Trump treated Alicia Machado, who won Miss Universe? Remember back then? Here, play this clip.
For the first time in the history of the pageant, viewers can actually participate. There'll be a question up, and the viewers can actually call in and vote. Let's bring up the question. It says, should a pageant title holder be required to maintain her physical appearance during her reign? Why do you think this is an important question that the viewers would care about?
Well, it's something that really has come up over the last year, and Alicia has done an incredible job. She really has turned out to be one of the great Miss Universes, I will say. And she had a little problem during the middle where she gained a little weight.
I don't think so.
Yeah, she's probably right.
I don't think so.
Okay. And so...
Well, let's talk about that debate, because it's interesting. The viewers are going to make a decision today, and they're going to vote in one way or the other. Alicia, do you think that should matter? Because after all, you were voted in as being the most beautiful woman in the world.
I am the most beautiful woman in the world.
I certainly don't doubt that.
With 20 pounds or no pounds, I am the most beautiful woman in the world.
Do you not think that it's important to maintain a certain look during that year?
Yes, of course, but I think all women in the world have a problem with the weight.
Right.
And I think maybe I had some problem with this, but I'm fine now, and I think 15 pounds is nothing with 20 years old. And I think the most important for the next Miss Universe, and then is no more dinners, no more lunch, no more breakfast, and no more when you travel, diplomatic dinners and parties.
I think what Donald's talking about, and I think most people agree, that there is a look to Miss Universe.
And more time for go to the gym. It's very important because when you are Miss Universe, you don't have time for nothing.
Right. Donald, how do you think that this Miss Universe will be different from the others?
Well, I don't know that it's going to be different. We have many beautiful women, and it's actually incredible. I was over there today, and the women are magnificent. And so I don't think it's going to be different. It's going to be more of the same.
And just to make you remember, too, or have you remember, the first time Donald Trump ran, right, when the statements came out where he said, grab women by their vaginas and when you're rich, you get away with it. Remember, he said he grabbed them he used the P word. He then didn't attend the beauty pageant in Louisiana. And you could see the relief on the people on the contestants when Trump was not going to show up. Here, watch this.
We saw that Donald Trump announced on Twitter he would not be here for the pageant tonight. How does that change things for you guys?
I knew it was going to be Brooke. I just knew it was going to be Brooke.
I'm the one.
And I'm sorry, something interrupted me.
I'm wondering if that changes anything as far as the pageant goes tonight, or as far as the brand of the pageant tonight.
You know, as I said 2 or 3 weeks ago, this pageant is an opportunity to be about the women and the city, and that's what we're focusing on. And you know what? It's good for us that we're just focusing full steam ahead. It hasn't really changed because that's all we've been doing for the last few days. And I know that there's a big campaign going on out west, and we're focusing here in Louisiana.
I mean, we also have Donald Trump talking about how this was when Lindsay Lohan was 17 years old. She may have just been turning 18, or she may have been 17 years old. Lindsay Lohan, the actress. Donald Trump said that she's very disturbed, mentally ill, and he says he loves to have sex with mentally ill people. He goes, they're the best in bed when they have mental illness, he said. This is what he bragged about. And I think she was 17 here. She may have been 18, but she was very young. Let's play this clip.
Yes, but you have to like freckles. I've seen a close-up of her chest. Yes. And a lot of freckles. Are you into freckles? If the father's a wreck, like the way he is. Right. You imagine the sex with this troubled... Yeah, you're probably right. She's probably deeply troubled and therefore great in bed. Back in the day... How come the deeply troubled women... Yes. Deeply troubled. Right. They're always the best in bed.
And then Donald Trump talked about how attractive he thought Paris Hilton was when she was 12 years old. Again, just pulling out the receipts, things that he said. Play this clip.
I've known Paris Hilton from the time she's 12.
She's hot.
Her parents are friends of mine, and, the first time I saw her, she walked into the room and said, who the hell is that?
Did you want to bang her?
She is well, at 12 I wasn't interested. I've never been into that.
Right.
They've sort of always stuck around that 25 category.
But even at 12, you were kind of
No,
like,
but
wow,
I
she's hot.
saw at 12 she was beautiful. But honestly, Paris gets knocked and this and that, but she's very beautiful. Her
Is she
skin
dumb?
is flawless. She's dumb like a fox.
Have you seen the video, the sex video?
I have seen it.
You did. What'd you do? You went on the internet?
it was just
How did you see that? What did you do?
Melania showed it to me.
She did?
She showed it to me.
What did you think of that?
I think it's probably unfortunate, and perhaps it made...
And this was the speech that Donald Trump gave, I think it was either 2023 or 2024, maybe in 2023. But it was in front of the young Republicans of New York. So these were high school Republicans and college Republicans. So 16, 17, 18 through about 21, maybe some older, but the young Republicans, right? And then Trump said that when he called sexually assaulting women locker room talk, that was the most courageous act of his life. He said that was when he showed the most courage. This is what he said in his own words. I mean, I'm not paraphrasing it. Just listen, listen to it for yourself. Here, play this clip.
But I went onto that stage just a few days later, and a general who's a fantastic general actually said to me, "Sir, I've been on the battlefield. Men have gone down on my left and on my right. I stood on hills where soldiers were killed. But I believe the bravest thing I've ever seen was the night you went onto that stage with Hillary Clinton after what happened. And then that woman asked you the first question about it. And I said, locker room talk. It's locker room talk. What the hell? What are you talking? Locker room talk." That was not a great...
And here's the video where Donald Trump was speaking at a high school. And at the high school, he talked about being peed on or being urinated on by hookers. And he goes, "I don't like that." He goes, "They call it golden showers. I don't like those," he said. Here, play this clip.
He was with 4 hookers. You think that was good that night to go up and tell my wife, "It's not true, darling. I love you very much"? It's not true. Actually, that one she didn't believe because she said he's a germaphobe. He's not into that, He's not into golden showers, as they say they call that. He's not. I don't like that idea. No, I didn't. I thought that would be a big problem. I was going to have a rough night, but that one she was very good on. She said, no.
Right. I mean, some real deranged, grotesque behavior. You have those receipts. You see why the regime is angry at us for showing you those receipts. But judge for yourself. And do me a favor. As I said, this channel is so close to 6 million subscribers. Help us hit 6 million. We're grateful for you. Thank you so much for watching.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.